I will be able to, I'll have it also. If yours crashes, that way I'll have it also.
You should be able to record it because I don't have it
Okay.
that where you
It
can't.
says, please ask the host to give you permission to record.
Oh,
I think it's in participants.
okay. So we're live on YouTube right now.
Hello,
So
everybody on YouTube.
no, I don't know if I have a lot of people
Yeah,
playing.
you need to give me permission to record. It hasn't done that yet.
Um, um, doesn't say anything. Make host, make co-host.
No, it's usually for me, it's usually in um, participants, but yours is just coming up as rename. But
Well, I have it recording and we're live now,
okay,
so we'll just
okay,
carry on, and it'll be
okay,
on YouTube for sure.
okay, great,
So
terrific.
today, welcome everybody. It's Mari-Lyn Harris from Heart at Work, and we're talking to people about how they're creating an impactful legacy in their business, in their life, in their community. And so I'd like to welcome Joan um,
Michelson.
Michelson, sorry,
Okay.
to the call today. And Joan and I come from a group of women. We call ourselves the Scrappy Women. So she's one of the scrappy women. So, Joan, welcome to the show. And why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and how'd you get started doing what you're doing?
Well, thank you. Yes, we are all part of the Kindy Weifling fan club of Scrappy Women. I love it. It's great. So it's a pleasure to be here, and I just love what you're doing with creating an impactful legacy. I think it's really important, especially now, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I am a hybrid or a tribrid, if you will. I've been a corporate leader and an entrepreneur and a journalist, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm really an innovator and a creativity freak. And so what I do now is mostly journalism, and I have a podcast as you do called,
Yeah.
mine is called Green Connections Radio, and I interview women who are innovators in energy, sustainability, and climate, and kind of related corporate responsibility spaces.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I do career coaching, and and I write for Forbes, and I write appear in other media as well. But Forbes is my main platform for that now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of the very short version. And I can tell you, I got into the STEM space kind of by Mars, actually. I was recruited unexpectedly by Chrysler to head up the communications and co-head the sales and marketing of their electric car division.
Okay.
And I'm in the DC area, and I was moved to the Midwest, and I never worked in the car business. I never lived where they were. I'd never been in energy or STEM. I mean, I had done certain technology things at American Express and Deloitte in a consulting capacity, but not like this. And so I was a bit of a Martian from outer space to them. And, it was amazing, Mari-Lyn. And it really changed my life. And in some ways, I changed theirs because
Mm-hmm.
together, I had a great boss. And so together, we did some really innovative strategies and campaigns, and we dramatically increased the adoption of electric vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
And they got to meet this crazy New York City girl. I'm a born and bred New Yorker, and so they'd never known from likes of me before,
Mm-hmm.
but they went for the ride, and I was able to do some really creative strategies and met some great people and kind of found my home.
Mm.
And then when Chrysler blew up and our division was sold and everybody scattered, I came back to DC, and I've always done work as an avocation to help women.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody asked me when I came back I was speaking at a conference, and somebody asked me to do a radio show on their network. And so Green Connections Radio was born. And then I was writing, doing my journalism stuff, and people would come to me and say, well, you know so much about this. Can you help me with X or Y or Z? And so thus career coaching was born. And I love it. I work mostly with women and mostly with women in these fields, but STEM, energy, sustainability, climate, but not exclusively. In fact, one of my clients is a guy who I met at a green economy conference in the past, and he came to me and said, I need your help. I want to raise my visibility, yada, yada.
Right.
And the work that we did, what ended up coming out of it was that he should write a book, and his book is actually coming out. So I help people write their books.
Right.
I don't write it. I help them write it so that it hits the market.
Right.
And connect them to an agent, to a real agent, if you will.
Right.
And so his book is now coming out. He recently sent me the book cover. It's very exciting.
So you're writing a foreword or the back end for him?
I'm not writing for that one, although I did the foreword on another book last year about my great aunt that came out, who was also a journalist at the turn of the late 1800s, early 1900s, who played a serious role in getting the 19th Amendment ratified.
Right.
So we like her a lot. But yeah, and I am writing my own book, so that'll hopefully come out soon. So I work with mostly women and as a career coach, but not exclusively women. And I like to help people find, they come to me usually with work that saying that they're frustrated or they feel invisible or they're, they're not making enough of a difference. And in some cases with COVID and things like it, people are going through shifts, right? And they're saying, well, what do I really want to do? How do I really want to spend my time, right?
Yeah. I think we ask that question a lot when we get older, or we come to a space or time in our life that we're ready to shift into something else, pivot or shift or reinvent ourselves, whatever you want to use, right? I find that that's a lot what happens, right? And so when do you find that women get there? Is there an age group?
No, there really isn't. I mean, I've had clients who are only been in the working world for 5 or 7 years, and I have clients who have been in it for 30 years. So they really, everybody hits it in a different way at a different time with a different trigger. And I think sometimes it's a matter of, being laid off or whatever. Right. Sometimes it's just kind of sometimes it's fear of being laid off eventually.
Right.
Sometimes it's just something's missing and I don't know what it is, or I'm finding myself not looking forward to the work I'm doing every day.
Right. Yeah.
Life is too short, or sometimes they have lose somebody who's close to them, and it kind of shakes them up that life is short. So everybody has a really different trigger. It's really different. Some people like to make change more often than others. So it really varies.
Yeah, I think that depends too. If you start off, like I'm more of an entrepreneur, so I tend to find myself changing frequently. So maybe somebody that starts in a job role as an employee, I don't know if you find this to be true, they don't like that change so much, but eventually, like you say, they have a trigger that causes them to seek you out and say, help, I just got to navigate around this. I don't know how to do that.
Well, I work with a lot of people who are creative people, who are innovative people, and sometimes they come to me and they say, I've been in this company for X period of time and I'm not going anywhere, or I can't use who I am, or I can't X, I can't Y. And the first thing I do is actually say, well, maybe you can. Maybe there's another way.
Right.
In another role or another something that you can, without, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right?
Yeah.
Because I've been, I'm an entrepreneur as well as an entrepreneur, and
right.
And you can find pockets in a big company. I mean, I have one client who has been in a big company for 30 years actually, and part of her work has been building a new innovation unit, but she'd always been pitching it. And it took 13 years, and they finally said, okay, we're going to develop this unit, and we're going to have you do XYZ in it.
Right.
And she came to me, she's like, I want to run this unit. I created this unit. And, I'm excited. Actually, we started working before they even gave her the unit. And so she didn't have to leave, right? She found a way to persuade them to do this work and put her in charge. I said, in effect, it's going to be kind of squatters' rights, because you're already running it. You're hiring everybody. You're thising, you're thatting.
Right.
It's your baby.
Right.
And I was also helping her, because I've worked in corporate America for so long, figure out how to navigate the relationships in the organization.
Right.
So that she could get their buy-in for what she wanted to do and the role that she wanted to have.
Right.
Including leveraging contacts outside the organization, or people that had been there and left recently, or so there's different ways. There's different ways to navigate it. You don't always have to just say, oh, forget it, I'm leaving. That's not always the course. There's often ways you can make it work.
Yeah. Like you were saying, not throwing out the whole idea, the concept, whatever it is you want to do, out the window or out the door, because sometimes, like you were saying, those opportunities or ideas can come from within, right?
Yeah, well, start from where you are.
Right.
And I mean, if you're working in a company and you're not doing something that's related to sustainability, but you really, or the environment, and you really want to, start a green club.
Right.
In your organization, or, talk to the facilities management people about doing a recycling, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Or, see if there's some kind of a corporate responsibility person who you can connect with to say, oh, I want to do X. You can find another way to give it a voice.
Right. Yeah.
And make an impact.
Gives you a voice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And it gives you a voice as well. Right?
Exactly.
It's like, I've always found a lot of times when I'm volunteering at something, I usually get a project or a job or something because they got to get an opportunity to get to know me, right? And I think it's just like any other situation. It gives you an opportunity to get known or seen and say, oh, she's really good at that. Maybe we could find her to do that, whoever that is, right?
Well, and that's actually how my role at Chrysler came about. I mean, it was a weird situation through meeting the president of the company when I didn't even know that's who I was talking to at a luncheon. And fortunately, I was well behaved. It's not one of us scrappy women, but actually I was pretty scrappy, and I had some pretty creative ideas. And then when we were around a room and he introduced himself, I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. But he actually pointed out that he said to me, because of my ideas and my energy, that's why he wanted to talk to me about coming to work there. And so, you can be you, or you can be more of you than you think. And I wrote recently in Forbes about this moment that we're in the new year. I called it Welcome to the Era of ESG, which is energy, sustainability, or environment, social, and governance.
Right.
And because the confluence of COVID and climate change and the racial injustice movement coming to a head, it's really showing how companies need to be more transparent, more accessible, more focused on the environment, on their people of all types. And transparency comes in governance. Governance is about transparency and really being held accountable for what you're actually doing.
Yeah. Yeah, what you're saying and what you're doing, they have to match.
Well, yeah, but you have to be honest about it and say, look,
Yeah.
we've got work to do here.
Yeah.
We're doing this, but we know we have work to do, and we're going to get, this is how we're looking to get there.
Right, right. So what are some of your biggest challenges that you find your clients or people you work with have right now, even through COVID or previous to COVID?
Making a negative into a positive. I mean, turning
Mm-hmm.
their frustration into something positive. So, I mentioned one of my clients who came to me frustrated that they were not highly accomplished individual, but had been doing some cool stuff, but really kind of wasn't getting traction, wasn't getting the workshops, wasn't getting the trainings, wasn't getting the higher visibility, and was kind of, as we say in the news business, burying their lead. And so we worked on some of their marketing approach and framing and positioning a lot. And what came out of that was that they could and needed to write a book, that they were natural, because they're a really good communicator.
Right.
And so, that's where you can turn something over, on the other spectrum, I have another client who is fairly young and really has had her heart set on being a filmmaker and educator on environmental issues. Really talented person. And we looked at her background and her skill set and et cetera and networks, and she ended up getting a great job doing creative digital communications for a mission-driven organization.
Okay, cool.
And she's happy as a clam. So, she's got her documentaries on the side, but she doesn't have to be her primary gig, and she feels more stable.
Right.
And I think that's part of it too. I mean, I did a piece in Forbes recently on a couple that relate to the end of the year and the beginning of the year, on looking at our careers, and one is on the goal setting one. They tie together really, which is really, first of all, looking at your accomplishments in the year gone by. Right. A lot of people go, oh God, I can't wait for 2020 to be over, forget about it. I didn't do anything. I sat on my ass. I was on, YouTube all day. Right.
Yeah.
But I think if we really take the time to enumerate what we did, and even count the little things, I took a half an hour walk every day, or whatever. I mean, then you get a sense of accomplishment, but also then you can look at where the trends show you're going. Right. Where did you naturally spend your time? And I don't mean binge watching Netflix necessarily, but even that, I mean, there's great stuff to watch. I mean, did you find yourself naturally watching documentaries all the time, and on what, kind of thing. So you can break it down, and that also gives you a tremendous morale boost. Right. And then you can go into goal setting, looking at where the universe is now, because it's different. You can't just picking up your goals from last year and updating them is not going to work. We have a new world. There's all kinds of shifts going on, right? I mean, and so to really step back and look at, yes, you still want them to be measurable and specific, et cetera, but you really want to look at what is, for example, a breakthrough goal. Right. What would really catapult you to the next stage? Is it writing a book? Is it doing a podcast? Is it doing a lot of people come to me and go, I want to do a podcast. Tell me how to do it. And I'm like, okay, this is a lot more involved than you think, people. Yeah. This is a long-term committed relationship. Right? But there's usually something that can really be a breakthrough. And for everybody, it's different. For some people, it's expanding their side hustle into, a certain level, right? To some people, it's finally getting their book published. To some people, it's getting a new job or a promotion. I mean, there's all kinds of things that it could be, right? Right. And I think that, and anyway, there are lots of, there are a lot of other steps as well, but you know, it's also a matter of um, looking at all the different parts of your life, not just your career, but looking at, you know, what are your financial goals? What are your relationship goals? And I
Right.
mean, relationships writ large,
Yeah.
family, friends, colleagues, business, you know, clients, whatever you want. Um, but it's also, you know, as one of my guests said, um, put the dots together differently. You know, I'm a,
Mm.
as an innovator and a creative person, I like to use the innovators DNA model, which
Okay.
is question and associate differently and experiment. So
Right.
you can put parts of what you've done and parts of who you are and
Mm-hmm.
projects you've done, not even
Right.
just jobs you've had, but
Yeah.
break it down into projects,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And kind of go, oh, well, I liked this part of this. I didn't like that part. I liked working with these kinds of people. I didn't, and you know, you never know what kind of clay
Yeah.
creature you'll come up with.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard another way of doing it is you keep asking yourself why until you get to the bottom of it. I don't know how well that works, but I think for some people it does. You know, why are you doing that? Well, and then, you know, but like I like the way you'd explained it is that you chunk it down so that you find parts of a job you love and you can note it, right? And then you keep going until you find something that a stream of things that really work really well for you.
Well, and that worked for well for you for who you are now, because you
Right.
might have liked, you know, being a software developer 5 years ago, but you want to do something else now, or you
Right.
might like doing, you might have, you might want to do software development now, and you've been doing something else.
Yeah.
So you have to remember, I mean, we evolve, right? We're
Right.
not who we were. Just because you've always been going down this yellow brick road doesn't mean you have to stay on it.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's the biggest challenge, especially with, I don't know about for younger people. I'm talking about younger than me, but you know, thinking that I picked this path, I got to stay on it, right? So you don't have to, you know, get
No,
off on it.
and the truth is, I think in some ways, unless you're really in love with what you do in that regard, you're doing yourself a disservice
Mm-hmm.
to not explore other parts of who you are.
Right.
And I don't mean it has to be completely different. I mean, everything I've done is about communications. I've
Right.
just done it in different ways
Right.
and
Right.
in different industries,
Mm-hmm.
focused on a different angle at that time.
Right. Yeah. But you have to be very creative to do what you're doing too, right?
Yeah, but I think more, I think almost everybody has some kind of creativity in them. They just don't
Mm-hmm.
frame it that way.
Oh, okay.
You know, it's all about how you frame it, how you think about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So in that framing, so who, I know you mentioned earlier you like to work with mostly women, but is there any particular, I know we talked about at the beginning that they have a trigger that they say, oh, I want to do something more or something better. So, and you also said you did a lot of social responsibility. So how does that all tie together, or is that two different focuses for you?
No, well, usually they're women who are doing something or want to do something that is related to social responsibility in some way, whether it's
Yeah.
usually either working in climate or whatever. And I've had, it's kind of interesting. This year I've had people come to me to give a gift of sessions with me to
Mm-hmm.
someone they know,
Right.
which I think is really fun. I mean, they've all said, you know, so and so is in transition in some way, or they're doing X, but I know they're not really happy, and I want to do something that's really going to help them. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I completely out of the blue, which is really
Yeah.
exciting, you know.
Right.
And they're all doing work that um, or they're the what they was framed to me as doing, wanting to do work that really made more of a difference than what they're doing now, or
Mhm.
that was taking a piece of what they're doing now and doing more of it or doing it bigger.
Yeah. Expanding.
So, yeah, and I don't know if you saw this because I kind of sent it at the last minute, but I'm happy to offer any of your listeners or viewers a 30-minute complimentary session. And they can find me, they should follow me on Twitter at Joan Michelson, and they can see the spelling of my name and this benefits of Zoom. They tell you how to spell somebody's name. And find me and mention Mari-Lyn Harris and, you know, and Hard at Work, I think it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll put it out there.
Yeah, that'd be fun. So I'd be happy to do that. But that's really kind of it. And, you know, some of them are women who have been working in energy or working in climate or working in one part of energy and want to do another. Or they're been working in academia and sustainability and they want to do more on the private sector side, or sometimes they don't know what they want to do. They just know that something's not clicking and clacking the way that they want it to.
Yeah. Yeah. Or how to monetize something, or
well, that's true.
Whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Because if you're in communications, you're going to help them clarify that for themselves, right?
That's true. And I find that most people, men and women, by the way, believe it or not, tend to not understand their value. I mean, I've had men who undervalue their talents as much as women. I've had more women, but I've worked with several men who have made significant money, but they still undervalue some of what they've done. It's like we all have this. It's like, well, if I'm good at it, you know, it must not be that special. Right?
Yeah. If I'm good at it, I shouldn't get paid well. Yeah. Very, very cool. Well, it's nice having you on the call with me, Joan. And I so appreciate your insights and your ideas. I can tell that you love doing communication, just the way you talk about situations and how you've been able to help people. And I can see that your face kind of lights up. So.
Oh, that's good. It shows.
Congratulations.
Huh?
Yeah, it shows. So I so appreciate that you were able to come on kind of quickly. So that's great. So
you're welcome.
Yeah. So like I said, the show is about creating an impactful legacy. So before we go, is there one situation that you felt that you could have that feeling of that you really made an impactful legacy towards somebody or yourself?
You know, I think actually it would be at Chrysler, because the electric car industry and the adoption of electric vehicles is still quite nascent. And it was even more nascent several years ago when I was there. And through our creative communication and our creative strategies, we did hockey stick growth, which didn't just sell Chrysler electric vehicles. It got more, exponentially more electric vehicles on the road, and increased the positive perception of electric vehicles. I mean, I had, we were transporting, I created this deal. This was really fun. I created a deal where we were transporting VIPs for the inaugurations of President Obama in our cars.
Right.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
That was really fun. And, you know, done it for a lot of other dignitaries and other special events and VIPs. And people go, oh, this is cool. And then they talk about it and they take pictures of it and they promote it. And so it really has a huge impact, because it makes something that's good for the planet and fun. I mean, these are cool cars. Really more, not even beyond acceptable. They're cool. They're like, well, I want to check that out. So it really increases adoption and receptivity to something that is both. It's a win-win-win-win-win. It's a win. It's, you know, cheaper to own, more fun to drive, and better for the planet. So yeah, no, what more for better would you like? You know, that's awesome. That's great.
Well, thank you very much once again, Joan. And thank you for everybody that's joining us today or later. Um, so as the Impactful Legacy continues, I love talking to people that are doing that, doing what Joan is doing, or people that feel that there's so much, they want to be known, but they just don't know how to promote themselves. And I can help you do that. So in the meantime, I always like to say my end of line, be kind to each other, because that's all we have is each other. And kindness will make the ripple, ride the wave of kindness. So anyway, thank you for joining us, and we'll be talking to you soon. Thank you,
Great.
Joan.
Thank you,
Okay.
Mari-Lyn. Thank you for what you
Okay.
do and
Okay.
for
Thank
inviting
you.
me.